I'm so excited for you to hear from my new friend, Clay Garrett at Campfire Gentleman about how he's encouraging dads and husbands to show up better, to show up, be present, to find meaning and purpose. I'm so excited for you to hear this great conversation with my new friend, Clay.
Welcome to the Family Table. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with parents, caregivers, and family experts about the joys and challenges of family life. We'll share the stories, advice, and insights that will help you build a loving and resilient family. Pull up a chair and join us at the Family Table.
Welcome, everybody, to the Family Table. I'm your host, Matthew Eford, and I'm so excited to have with me my new friend, Clay Garrett. And before I get to Clay, I've got to read this short little ad from our sponsor, Lighting Pros. Want a business that truly lights up lives and your own? Look no further than Lighting Pros franchise. We're the trusted leader in premium outdoor lighting solutions. We're expanding with passionate entrepreneurs across the country. Imagine the satisfaction of creating stunning outdoor spaces backed by a proven business model, extensive training, and unwavering support. Say goodbye to seasonal winter slumps and hello to a growing year-round opportunity with low startup costs and incredible demand. Ready to step into a brighter future? Visit lightingprosfranchise.com and discover how Lighting Pros can illuminate your path to success. That's lightingprosfranchise.com. Your vision perfectly lit. Well, Clay, man, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have this conversation, for us to pull up a seat at the table and just have a conversation. So tell us about your family.
Sure. So I'm married, and I've been married about 15 years, and me and my wife have been together about 20. And we have a 12-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. And, nice. And we live on what I like to call a small farm in East Texas.
Nice. Yeah, and very cool.
Yeah, so we have horses and mules and a chicken and a couple of dogs and a lot of cats.
Nice. Okay. All right. So how did you get into horses?
Well, actually, my grandfather had a couple of horses and a donkey. Okay. And he passed away, and there was no one to take care of him. And so one day, my cousin just showed up, and he said, "No one else can take these, so y'all are taking them. Y'all have the room." And so, and the two horses and the donkey quickly, expanded into mules, and so we have, I think, 3 mules.
Nice.
So we got rid of the donkey because we couldn't take any more mules. So
yeah. Okay. Okay. So what's the reason for the additional mules? Are you using them, or are you farming anything on the land, or what? How are you utilizing the farm?
Yeah, not really. We just have we live on 4.5 acres, and so they're just out there. They're more like pets than livestock. We're out there out there eating the grass, and my wife mostly deals with them, but like I said, they're more like pets. We had one that it was a real rough birth, and so like we moved it out from the pasture into the yard, and like I said, when it was small, it was almost like a small dog. We were running around playing with it and all that.
Yeah, cool. What a cool experience for your kids.
It really was.
Well, tell me about Campfire Gentleman. I know we kind of talked beforehand, but tell me more what you got going on Campfire Gentleman.
Sure. So Campfire Gentleman is a newsletter for the most part. It's an email newsletter and there's a blog with it, and it is for men, generally, fathers and husbands, that is built around the core principles of family, purpose, growth, health, and simplicity.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so let's take each one of those one at a time. So talk to me about the family component.
Sure. To me, family is the cornerstone that kind of makes all the other things, gives the importance to most of the other things. And so that's where it starts.
Okay.
And then it moves, then purpose is more, like I said, you find something you're passionate about and put your time and energy into, and that helps you show up better at home with your family. And then it moves, obviously health, you develop healthy habits, get some sleep, those sorts of things. Same deal. Okay. Make you show up better for your purpose and for your family.
Okay.
Then you move into growth is, learning, getting better. You have to have the willingness to grow and learn and get better at all those things.
Sure.
And then simplicity is sort of this filter that I imagine using on all these things to make sure you're getting the most out of them, you're doing them in the most efficient way. And so I always look and think, if I have these systems for my health, if I have a workout program, for instance, well, is I'm doing it the most simple and efficient way? Is my my reading efficient? Is it simple? Is it getting in the way of other things? And so I just sort of use that filter of simplicity on all the other 4 core principles, and it keeps it efficient. Make sure you're devoting the attention to the things that matter most, and what is it? The 20%, 20% of things.
Yeah, 80-20. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Plato's.
And so I make sure that I'm focusing on that 20% that really moves the needle with that simplicity filter.
So give me an example of a growth. That's one of the key foundations. Tell me, can you give our audience, when you think about growth, give us an example from your life. How are you growing as a dad, as a husband? What does that look like?
Sure. The first thing I always think about with growth is reading.
Okay.
And so one of my, a lot of Campfire Gentleman idea is just these small daily practices. So you don't have to, you just do little bits of things every day, and it just over time builds up. And so one of my things is I read 30 minutes every day. And by read, usually I mean listen to an audiobook. But
sure.
So 30 minutes a day I devote to reading, and I don't do anything else, certainly nothing that takes any thought, and so I can focus on the reading, and that's what I dedicate it to. And it's not like everything you read is just some life-changing thing, but a lot of times the same deal, they add up over time when you realize, 6 months from now, you're like, I didn't realize that I remembered that from that book, but I pulled it out and used it in this situation. And so to me, growth always starts with reading, and it also starts with being open-minded enough to think you could learn. A lot of times people, they either think they know everything or think that they'll never know enough to know anything, one or the other. And so you have to be open-minded to know you don't know everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the distinction of also that you can't ever learn, right? Mm-hmm. I think so many people take it the other way. Not so much that you can't tell me anything because I know everything, but a lot of people fall into the trap of, I just don't know anything. I'm just not smart. It's like, no, you have capabilities. The Lord designed you in such a way that you can learn, you can grow, you can adapt. Man, I love that distinction. So tell me about the name Campfire Gentleman. Where did that name come from? What are you trying to symbolize there with the name?
Well, it started because a lot of times, me and my wife will talk about, a podcast or a YouTuber or somebody on Instagram, and we always refer to them by their handle or whatever. We don't refer. It's obvious their name, but you'll just refer to them by their handle. And so it just got me thinking one day, like, whoa, if I was a YouTuber or some sort of personality, what's a name that would encompass kind of everything about me in, a short phrase or whatever. And so that's actually what I came up with and I just sort of encompassed both the idea of, sensitivity and ruggedness all in the same kind of bucket. Cool. Basically, that's what I was kind of going for.
Very cool. And how did you start this? What was the foundation of this? Have you been doing this for decades? Was this a recent thing? When did you start Campfire Gentleman?
The kind of organization of it, I guess the best way to say it, was really in the past year, but it really goes all the way, the start of it goes all the way back 2020, because like a lot of people in 2020, I got laid off during the pandemic. And up until that point, I was working in corporate marketing, and I had been doing corporate marketing for, at that point, a decade probably.
Okay.
And I was doing good. I was doing all the things you were supposed to do, providing for my family, kind of moving up. Every job was a better job than the next one. And that whole thing, I'd never had that much time. Like suddenly, like emotionally and financially, the layoff obviously was a big deal.
Sure.
But also, except logistically, I had all this space all of a sudden. I had no deadlines. I had no projects coming up. No direction. I had to make something meaningful out of the time. And as it kind of wore on, I realized all these things that I'd never noticed before. Like I was having breakfast with my wife every day, and I was spending like big chunks of time with the kids because there was nothing next coming up for me to worry about. And all of a sudden I was hanging out with my dad at his wood shop, just building stuff because he had recently retired. I was hanging out. I was playing video games with my brother, which I'd never done before because there's this big age gap. And so we were never kind of in the same spots in our lives to really kind of become friends. And as it went on, I thought, man, I sort of realized in the moment, this is an opportunity for me to kind of rethink everything and reset. If I want to, I can obviously reset my career and reset my priorities. And if you reset it, my trajectory in life almost. And so I was like, it made me question, like, what do I want? Like, what type of life do I want to build? Because I have an opportunity to actually do it right now.
Sure. And
so that's what I kind of processed that question and started building that life.
Man, I love that.
Yeah. And so eventually I got a job almost a full year later, but it was very much a job built around my priorities.
Okay.
And so it wasn't like the previous job where it was, I'll stay late, I'll come in early, I'll work through lunch type thing. It was very much, actually, it was not a hybrid position. I told them I was not going to take it if it wasn't a hybrid position. And so I left at 1 every day and went home and worked from home and was available for my family. If something happened and I needed to take a kid to, a taekwondo or something like, or, a doctor's appointment or whatever, I was available all of a sudden to do those things. I could make those hours up later in the night or the next day or whatever. And so eventually I left that job mid last year and to start my own marketing company.
Nice.
And that was the plan. And that's what I was doing. And the way Campfire Gentleman, like I said, is sort of organized eventually was late last year. It was a night where I couldn't sleep. And so I'm just wandering around the kitchen and, and I shut the fridge door and I can see my computer screen just glowing in the next room. And so I go sit down at it and I open up a Google Doc and just start brain dumping everything in sort of a stream of consciousness with the idea. I don't know that I thought about it, but I'm sure this was in the back of my mind that if I get everything out, maybe something on my mind will end up on that sheet and I can go to sleep because it won't be.
Oh, I've done that before. Yeah. Yep. I understand.
And so after about 10 minutes, I looked at it and just was reading through it. And there was one line that said, I'd really like it if my work was meaningful.
Wow.
And I was like, well, what? I was like, what does that even? What does that even look like? What do I mean? What is that? But it really excited me, and so eventually I went back to sleep. And the next morning I was super excited to sort of pull on that thread and see what I could come up with.
Sure.
And so that's basically what I did for a few months, really, until it sort of crystallized into the email newsletter and the Campfire Gentleman idea, and just like I said, the blog and everything, and and I sort of all the things I wanted to do and all the things I didn't want to do, and so till I got to where I was at, and then eventually, like I said, it wasn't like there was the 5 pillars were originally like this pyramid shaped thing of like 15 or 20, different pillars, and I was like, this is way too complicated.
Yeah,
so,
sure. Oh yeah.
So that all process happened like I said, late last year, early this year, and eventually in about February, it started to really take shape into what it is now.
Okay. So you've been doing this several months now. Mm-hmm. And what talk to me about your experience as a dad and as a business owner in this new venture. What have you learned? What advice would you have for an aspiring entrepreneur or an entrepreneur who's out there? What advice would you give to them?
Well, as a dad, it's just given me more ability. Flexibility is probably the best thing it's given me. It's given me flexibility to, like this morning, last night, I was my brother and his family were here late, and so we hung out. They left about 11, so I had the ability, to sleep late, which I didn't have in the corporate world, and then I went and worked out with a buddy, and then we're doing this. Then I'll actually do my work after this for a while, and then I'll stop about 5 and go hang out with the kids and all that. But tomorrow will be a much heavier work all day type day. And so I have that flexibility to move things around and in a way that I just didn't before. And so that's made me a more present dad, because I know, like I said, the next thing I do is something, there's no deadline on it other than the deadline I choose, if that makes, and so sure. It's given me that sort of flexibility to be present in a way that I really was not before. And I didn't even realize it before, but there was always this feeling of, if I don't get this thing done now, the thing after this won't get done in time. And the thing after that thing, which I don't even know what it is yet, but it won't get done on time either. And so I was always like, I'd go to the grocery store and be like, I got to get through this grocery store in a hurry, because there's going to be something next that I got to get done. And I got to prepare for the thing tomorrow that I don't even know exists yet. And so it was very difficult for me to be present, and really in almost every situation, but particularly with my kids. And so now I don't sort of treat them as this distraction or this thing that's in the way of this other thing that's always pressing on me.
Sure. So talk to me about your Campfire Gentleman, mm-hmm. and the blog. How is that helping you create purpose or doing work with meaning? Give me a little bit more clarity. I love that distinction. I love mm-hmm. that you wrote that down in the stream of thought. So many people, right? They go through their entire career and they get to the end of their time and they feel like, I didn't do anything meaningful. So you're at a point in your life and you're able to do that now, which is amazing. Give us some insight into how you're doing that. How are you helping other people find meaning? What does that look like?
Sure. The biggest thing is I get emails from people that, were really, and that, I mean, you hope to get that kind of, but I don't think you ever expect to get it, because, I don't know. I'm just the idea of someone, even though I was working on it, it was meaningful to me to put these ideas out into the world. I never really deep down thought someone or anyone would react to them.
Sure.
But I'll get email. I usually get an email every other day. I got one last night, and every time I get one of those, I'm just like, it's affected one person, and so it's just, like I said, I get an email about once every 2 days right now, and people will tell me stuff, and I'm like, I can't. It's like they'll go much more difficult times than I went through.
Sure.
And I'll think, I don't know what to say to this person. Like I can't really. Anything I say to them feels like inadequate to the situation they're going through. But I'll say something back and they'll be like, oh, thank you for responding and listening to me.
Wow.
And so I think there's just a lot of, men in particular that the ones that I'm talking to who just don't feel like anyone will listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. We see that within our organizations that we're a part of, right? I mean, a lot of times we're interacting with younger men that are early in their careers. Mm-hmm. And as a leader of the organization, my ability to connect with them and just have a heart-to-heart conversation. Sometimes that's one of the only heart-to-heart conversations, especially with another male, that they maybe ever have, which is very sad. And so, but it gives us opportunity as a business leader to do that. But as dads, it gives us opportunity to engage that way. So tell me about how you as a dad, how are you applying the things that you're teaching on, right? Because it's really easy to say it. It's really easy to write it. It's really easy to share it out there in a podcast or a book or in teaching, but it's really difficult to apply it, right? Where the rubber meets the road. Give me some advice. Give us an example about some of your core tenets, how you're applying them as a dad in your family.
Sure. Well, one thing, like particularly like this obviously we're discussing this giving me some purpose. Like I think the kids can definitely see that the excitement I feel about this, and when I talk about it, I think they feel that, and I think that makes a difference in how they. I mean, I hope it makes a difference in how they see me, and maybe that they don't eventually, like in particular, for instance, my son. I'm hoping he doesn't eventually. This keeps him from thinking that my only value is in making money or in providing type thing, which I know, guys can get into that idea that that's my value to the world and to my family and whoever else is, financially what I do. And I hope that, like I said, this helps him at some point never have that mindset. And my son in particular, we've started working out together. Actually, he just turned 12, which means he can go to the gym with me.
Nice, yeah.
Super excited about it. And I mean, he's not going to be an athlete. He's not even in sports. He's more into computers and stuff. But he was just super excited about working out with me. And I eat pretty healthy, and so he tries. He doesn't eat very healthy, but he's very interested in sort of the chemistry side of it all and the macronutrients and all that sort of stuff. And I'm hoping maybe eventually that will lead. I mean, he doesn't need to, he's perfectly fine right now, but and he's not he's not really into reading. My daughter is more into reading, but she's very much into art as well, which I grew up as an artist, and and that she really likes that. I think it gives her a sense. That's like usually her gifts to people is artwork that she made.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And so that I think that gives her a little bit of purpose right now.
Cool. So one of the core tenets is growth. Mm-hmm. You're talking about reading. That's a key element. So tell us a book. I'm an avid reader myself. Mm-hmm. What's a book or a couple books that you typically recommend out that have really informed you as a dad and or as a husband?
Sure. Now I actually have a whole reading list of 25 books on the website. Yeah,
fantastic. I'll make sure the link. Everybody who's listening, the link is in the show notes to that list of 25.
And like it's got 5 in each category. But I think one of the biggest ones that sort of bridges both, the entire family, the wife and the children, is the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
Oh yeah, big Gary Chapman fan.
Yes, because obvious. I mean, that particular one is more geared to your spouse, but it works perfectly fine for the kids and having the awareness. Because I never even thought about the idea that. Not only that I have a particular love language, and obviously my wife might have a different one, but that was even a thing that existed in the first place. And it just makes a lot of sense. And obviously, with the kids, and they're going to have their own love language as well. And to be aware of that and think about that and how you interact with them and how you, like I said, when you're going through something like explaining, when you're disciplining the children or, giving them encouragement or whatever you're doing, to think about the best way to give that to them so that they can take it the right way and use it for what you intend it for. And
sure.
So I think that, like I said, that just spans both of them, and it's a perfect book for anybody that.
I love that. Yeah, it's a fantastic distinction. He's also got several of them that he's written through for kids, for at work. He's got several different iterations of that. Gary Chapman, fantastic research. All right, Clay, tell me about you as a husband. So you started this. You've been really pressing in hard over the last 6 months or so. How has it changed you as a husband? Can you give me any kind of insight as to how you're showing up better today than you were 6 months ago or 5 years ago?
Well, one thing it's done is it's made me feel like if I'm going to put these things out into the world, I actually have to live them.
Sure.
And so earlier, one of the things I thought about late last year was me and my wife should go to a marriage retreat. And so I had that like in my yearly planner. I was like, at some point this year, I'm going to find a marriage seminar, marriage retreat, something like that to go to here local, somewhere in 2 or 3 hour range. I can find something. And our local church in January, it was like, hey, we're having a marriage retreat. We have this group from Florida that does this professionally coming in, and they're going to talk to you or whatever. And like, this is perfect. And so we went to that, and it was a 3-day seminar. And one of the things that came out of it was they had this, what they call the daily temperature check.
Okay.
It's essentially just a short 5-10 minute 5-question thing. You and your wife go back and forth, and and you might say, what's one thing you want to apologize for today? There's, or whatever. What's some new news that you have? What are you grateful for? This, and just goes through. And we do that. We did that during the mornings when the kids were in school. It's become more difficult to get done in the mornings now. So now we actually do it before we go to bed. But it's really, one thing it's actually made me realize is how good of a relationship we already had, because we would go through new news and be like, we don't have any new news because we talk so often that we just tell each other everything. I've got nothing new to tell you, or we communicate so often. There's not a lot to apologize for or whatever. And so, but that's helped a lot. And like I said, I'm always there's several, the whole book list. One of them was I read earlier this year was 7 Principles That Make a Marriage Work.
Okay.
John Gottman.
I'm not familiar with that one yet. Yeah, okay.
And it's much more clinical than the Gary Chapman one is. Sure. But just a different perspective, and I'm like, okay, there's always something I can take, and I'm always trying to sort of level up our communication in a way that I never even thought was a thing, before all of this.
I love that.
And so,
That's fantastic. Okay, so you have the blog. Mm-hmm. How do people get in touch with you? Please don't give the cell phone number. It's not what I'm asking you. But somebody hears this and they say, "Man, Clay, I'm right there with you. I'm living a life. It doesn't feel like it has purpose. It doesn't feel like it has meaning. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels." The 4 tenets that you have, and the 5th of being simplicity, like all those things resound with me. I want to know more. I want to follow along with the blog. I want to follow along with the email. How do they get in touch with you?
Everything is at campfiregentleman.com. That'll take you they'll give you the ability to sign up for the newsletter, and you don't have to see to see everything, all the blog and all that's, it's free. It's not in front of a sign up wall or anything. And my direct email is campfiregentleman@gmail.com. But you can message me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, any of those, and I'm available there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so Clay, if you had to summarize what your hope is for the rest of this year, let's kind of give it as we kind of close out. What's kind of summary that you're hoping for yourself as a dad and as a husband in the rest of this year?
Well, I'm hoping from the Campfire Gentleman side, I'm hoping just to connect with as many men as possible and grow in a way that allows me to affect the most men as possible. So I'm not as much after, some big number as I am, the effect of like I say, getting emails back, getting people actually, the people that do sign up actually reading it, that sort of thing. And so And I don't have some impressive number of supposed readers. I want readers to be reading it. And so
I love that.
Like I said, so to affect as many men as possible in a positive way and have it grow the way I would like. And as a father and as a husband, one thing I really want to do this year is have some really awesome like adventures with the kids and the wife, and
nice.
Go to some cool places, do some cool stuff. And
anywhere in particular that y'all are thinking about?
Well, for the past 4 years, we went to the same spot for vacation. And I really like the idea of kind of like going to the same place and creating a tradition out of it and really kind of digging in and finding the cool places. And
cool.
And so I'm just looking forward to finding new places in that area.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Very cool. Well, Clay, man, thank you for sharing. Thank you for the way you're encouraging dads and husbands out there to live a life of purpose, to connect with their meaning, to show up better. And that's all that we're about here at the Family Table. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today at the Family Table. Thank you for pulling up a seat with us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for pulling up a chair at the Family Table. We hope today's conversation has strengthened the bonds that hold us together. Don't forget to follow the show to keep these heartwarming stories coming your way. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with friends and family. And if there's someone whose family story you think would be a perfect fit for the show, drop their name in the comments. We would love to hear from you and bring more families to the table. Until next time, cherish those moments with your loved ones.